We'll go back slightly. We are on page Kuf Aleph, the second section. 5 lines on the top of the second section. The line begins with what's in she-nimshachot. We came down to talk about the kav, because the kav effectuates the identity of the sphirot, of the individual sphirot. Because originally the sphirot are really part and parcel of the Ein Sof, of the Ein Sof, not identifiable individually. The kav is what brings out the possibility of individual identity. And how does the kav, what is the initial cause for the union that individual identities are shown in the kav? It is due to the tzimtzum. And what is the tzimtzum? We already spoke about many times. Tzimtzum means that the whole reality, the oil in soif, is withdrawn. And when the oil in soif is withdrawn, what then remains? Then it is possible to show what's contained in the oil in soif, which is the spheres. And not only are the spheres, initially the spheres Ein Sof, bli gvul, uncountable spheres. If a spheres are to represent Ein Sof, there will be uncountable spheres. But then the tzimtzum effectuates that you come out with 10 spheres. What is the principle of 10? The principle of 10 is that this constitutes, so to speak, a structure of spheres that allows ultimately for the creation of worlds. She-nimshachim spheres protis. As a result of the tzimtzum, individual spheres are drawn. You already learned it, even though that in the kav, the spheres are pshitus adayin, they're as yet in a pshitus manner. And we explained what does it mean in pshitus. It means that they are still representative of the Ein Sof, and therefore the individual spheres are pshitus.
So we're saying inside the kav we have spheres.
The kav consists of spheres. The union that the spheres in the kav, they become pshitus. This is the principle behind the fact masha'akav hu miribun kodesh. The fact that the kav is miribun kodesh. It consists and is structured and is put together from ribun nekudas. Ribun means not from 10 nekudas, but a multitude of nekudas. Question is, what is the principle of multitude of nekudas? Multitude of nekudas means nekudas that represent the source, not nekudas that are structured in order to build something, but in the source itself. Riba nekudas. And this union of riba nekudas is a representative of the union that it is a sphirot. That is, it is there in a pshitus manner. We already discussed this. We get Mishalim from this. But as always, whenever we come back to the same words, it's inevitable that you think of some other way of exposing it that brings it closer. Let's get into this. Because we want to talk about the Kav 10 sphirot. Think of a home. And the home, the individual rooms, there's a dining room and there's a living room. You are now in the dining room. If you're in the dining room, there is just X number of different kind of furnishings that fits into the dining room. A bed does not go into the dining room. A bicycle, a car doesn't fit in the dining room. So therefore, when you look at the dining room, you inevitably you're thinking, if you're you will think in terms of what this dining room accommodates. Namely, tables and chairs, and perhaps serving dishes, and perhaps I think basically something have to do with dining room amenities. Now, this dining room was built within a house. This house initially started out without a dining room, just 4 walls and a roof. And at that point, the 4 walls could have been designed in any multiple ways of designating the space within this room, within this 4 walls.
Configuration.
Huh?
Configuration.
They can be designed in any which way. Therefore, at that point, you would say there is many different rooms. So even though there is absolutely no design, nonetheless, being that there are 4 walls, excuse me, aim at subdividing it into rooms. So even though the subdivisions are not yet identified, and it could be any kind of design, it could be multiple ways, nonetheless, there's a concept of subdivision. Now think of the step before that. You have an open field. You bought a piece of property. If you bought a piece of property within, so to speak, city limits, you can do anything on this property. But you're not going to cultivate this into a wheat field. It already has a pre-designed element. As a matter of fact, the city ordinance is not going to allow you to do it. You'll have to apply with certain principles what the city allows. So therefore, that open field, already has an element of pre-design. But this pre-design, it's called multiple points. There's It could be many, many different ways. So there are points, but multiple points. Why are there points? Because there's already some kind of a circumscription. It is within a certain context. If you go a step beyond that, and your property is not within city limits, your property is just in the wilderness. Let's go back to this country. The initial pilgrims, when they came to this country, it was literally a wilderness. The Indians lived here, but there was no cultivation, there was no design of many areas. Nonetheless, there was a beginning of a design. Why? Because the access was through waterways. Access was always rivers, lakes, and the ocean. So therefore, the rivers and lakes and the ocean already identified the contours of the area. If you want to build something, you will build there along the area, along the accessible area. So already there is some kind of a pre-design. But then when they started moving westward towards California, there's a total wilderness. There's not a river, there's not a lake, there's nothing there. Then they had to kind of conceptualize a design from truly an infinite possibility resource.
What's our point here? The nimshal is that the kav provides...
Give me a moment, I'll bring the point. The kav has many points. The inner that has many points, even though we're saying that's after the tzimtzum, but it is pshitus adayin. What does pshitus mean? He has not yet been circumscribed by a lake and by a river and by an ocean. It is part of the total reality. At that point, it's called REBBE nekudos. The word REBBE means many. Many means I can't begin to count, because there's no basis for counting. If you have a river and a lake and say, okay, there are 10 different ways you can design it. 100 different ways, but still there is a count. But if there is absolutely nothing, there is REBBE, it's just multiple.
So even though it's delivering 10 or exposing 10 spheros, truly it's REBBE, it's infinite points?
Oh. Even though we're exposing really 10 spheres. But these 10 spheres, that's what I say, these 10 spheres are bepchinas pshitus, means that their object is not how you're going to use them, but where they're coming from. Going back to our extremely simple moshel.
Wait, sorry. It's not how you're going to use them, it's where they're coming from. Wouldn't that put them back in the gather of infinite, not 10?
That's right. Oh, but there are 10. Why? Because the whole principle, this we spoke about yesterday, The whole principle of oir is for the sake of effectuating something. In order to effectuate, there has to be, in concept, already some kind of an order.
And once you have in concept a system of order, is that not already a move away from pshitus?
It's it's an order within pshitus, because that order is formulated, is conceptualized within pshitus. Let's take this. This is going too far a little bit, but let's take this into our motion. Once people came, and the pilgrims came, then they start thinking in terms of how we're going to use this area. But prior to them coming, this area already contained rivers and lakes. At that point, these rivers and lakes did not constitute a means of development, but constituted the reality of what a piece of land is, what a country is. A continent. Rebbe created continents. A continent means a full-fledged resource for eventual development. But this has a full-fledged resource. That's what Rebbe created. Waterways and water and underneath the ground and so forth. At that point, all of these content is repeated pshitus. They are talking about what is a piece of land, what is a world, what is a continent, not how do people use a continent. You see the difference? So initially, all of these things are repeated pshitus, because this is what a real continent is. Why is this a real continent? Because a continent of land, it's a living land. If there was no water underneath the ground, then everything will become sandy, will become a desert, and then it's uncultivable. But the creation of the earth was in a manner that it is cultivable, it's usable. It's a living earth.
So I mean, by the nimshal, we're saying that the Orient stuff is somehow a living resource.
That's right.
And it has its own, as it were.
This is why we say in Ein Sof there's as a sphirot that moves. That's even going a step further.
Why? And that's because it already has a structure that is on the way to becoming something revealed.
Not structure. It already has a point, an intent. And we spoke yesterday that why oil? Oil is for the purpose of revealing, of creating. The Melch does not need all the various the riches that he has, all the oils that he has, in order to identify himself. So oil in Sof is already the impact of the Ein Sof. And why impact? Because there is an intent behind this impact.
Okay, so the king unto himself would be higher than Or Ein Sof.
Absolutely.
And that's where it's mufshat of any kind of structure. Here we're within or Ein Sof, which is already.
Right. So we say even before the beyond that, beyond the Ein Sof, we're in the Kav. After the Tzimtzum, there's an order to the sphirot. And you can identify individual sphirot. How can you identify? Because it's a thin line. They form a line one beneath the other. You can identify individual sphirot. Except it is still b'pchinas pshitus. Pshitus means the reason there are so many sphirot is because the AYIN itself contains the sphirot. Even though there's just already some kind of an order there in a line one beneath the other. All right. Okay. So now we're in the next line. Whom in REBBE Nekudis. This is why the kav for REBBE Nekudis is because the kav in essence and the spheres in kav are in pshitus manner. That's why there is REBBE Nekudis. That's what REBBE means. REBBE means a lot. A lot means not countable. Why is it not countable? Because it's not meant to be counted. It's meant to represent the AYIN itself. The Komokem still, even though it's REBBE Nekudis, Hareiho b'pchinas kav hamido, it has the quality of being a kav hamido. The kav, the measuring stick, that measurement, limdoid mehuz asphirus. Pardon me. Limdoid mehuz asphirus, to measure the mehuz, the point and the reality of the spheres, liya is beifon kach v'kach davko, so that the mehuzah sphere should be beifon kach v'kach in such and such manner. Davko, what's mean davko? Intentionally, not by default, but intentionally. Why? What? Where does this intended design of the spheres come from? Which becomes most obvious in Esa Sphira Datzilus. When it comes to Esa Sphiras in Atzilus, there is Esa Sphiras in interception and so forth, but when it comes to Atzilus, there you could see that these spheres have an intended design. Not just a design, a pshitus design, but an intended design. Why so? Because as a sphere is Atzilus, these as a spheres are the oiras are bibchinas islapsha v'kelim, and in a manner of islapsha v'kelim, they fit it into kelim.
They're 10 because they fit into kelim.
No, the not the 10 aspect, but the design of the sphere. That the sphere has an intended design, be from kach v'kach dafka. You should have a specific design. And where do you see that there is a specific design in these spheres? It is not just all representing, so to speak, the possibility, the infinite possibility, but there is a specific intent. This is Nike B'Yesha, this is most obvious in Sphiras Atzilus. Why? Because in Atzilus comes a new phenomenon. Because Atzilus is slapshus b'kelim. In Atzilus, this is where the Sphiras come to the point where they fit it into kelim.
What's the meaning of kelim in this context?
What, sorry?
The meaning of kelim in this context of Omid Atzilus.
You're asking me, or you?
Yeah, no, I'm saying
Okay.
what could that mean?
Okay. the principle of Keli. Just try to identify the principle of Keli. I said before, there is oir. Oir is the impact of the answer. Excuse me, there's a reality in oir, an underpinning of the reality itself. It is there because it's real. This reality allows for multiple possibilities of how it can be used, because it's real. Keli is where you take these multiple possibilities and focus in on the possibilities themselves. Strip it of the oir, of the infinite resource. Rather focus on its usage, so to speak.
That would already be occurring inside Atzilus.
Yeah, this is where it becomes a world. The others are in Keli. Keli means there's Chochmah, or there is Chesed, there is Oira Chesed, and there's the Keli Chesed. Oira Chesed is representing the Neshama. The Keli Chesed represents exclusively Chesed, nothing else. Let's turn for a moment to the Moshe method. You have a feel of compassion for a poor person. That feel of compassion represents your connection to this poor person, and represents also the highest element in your neshama. It represents many things. Your overall sense of responsibility for the whole world. This is where it's all coming from. Then you put your hand in your pocket and take a penny out and give it to the poor person.
That's the Keli.
That's a Keli. In this gift,
right,
there's nothing but
the
metzius of that chesed. Not, there isn't the overall compassion of it, not just that's the action of chesed.
Right. You may think that in Atzilus you'd never have nothing but the deed or the Keli.
Sorry?
You may think in Atzilus there's no room for... The mashal was in the realm of action.
So we're saying that Atzilus is already a world. A world means oil is a big kelim. But the kelim in Atzilus, the kelim in Atzilus are also godly. It's not a physical, but nonetheless there is the union from Keli.
Okay.
And the Keli is that which identifies a worldly presence on the worldly present, on the worldly level. Removing the oil element. That's what after it seems. This is what we say in Atzilus. the medido, the circumscription of the spheres. Distinction between Chesed and Gvura and Chochmah and Bina becomes most obvious in Atzilus. Why? Because at that point it goes into a Keli. And the Keli was a Keli. A Keli takes just the design itself. That's what a Keli is. Shanasim, which is already described and explained before, Shanasim al Mitzius, whereby the oiros and the spheres become b'chinas Mitzius, the kelim b'chinas Mitzius at a Mitzius level, Mitzius quality. Again, when you have compassion for the poor, this is part of your neshama. It's an intangible reality. But when you take the penny out and give him, that is an act exclusively of chesed. A metzius of chesed. And therefore, because in Atzilus they go into Keli, and therefore the oiros become b'chinas mitzius. The oiros have to be defined in a mitzius manner. Coming back to, if we have gone this far, the time is up anyway, might as well conclude it. You have compassion. And when you take the penny out of your pocket, this is not an act separate from the compassion. Rather, what happens, the compassion has been reduced to a mitzias element. But there is still the underpinning of this. It all came from the original compassion. So therefore, the compassion now became a mitzias. The oyed became a b'chinas mitzias in to the extent that you can actually fit it into a keli. You say, if I give him a penny, I'm alive. I'm not just. It's not my hand giving him a penny. It's my neshama giving him a penny. Even though it's just a very simple action. What happened over here?
Nothing. They're moving around.
They're moving around.
They're there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is what we're saying. Atzilus, it becomes b'chinas mitzius. What becomes the oil in soiv? The sphira becomes b'chinas mitzius because it's fitted into a keli. And al came, and therefore, hem gam came be madreges nikeres. Therefore, the spheres come down to the point madreges nikeres in a ego. What does madrega mean? Madrega means level. Bebchinas milo mato shebahem. In the aspect of Milo Mato, higher and lower. Within the oides, within the spheres, there's Milo Mato. Bimhuso Madegos. This Milo Mato is identified within the sphere itself in the terms of what Mehus of the sphere is and what Madrege it is. Time is up, so I just want to finish up. When you take that penny and extend your hand and give it to the poor. As we said, it is a keli, but not devoid of neshama. I remember reading that during the Depression years, were horrible years. People were mamish starving in the street, in this blessed land. And there was this phenomenally wealthy Rockefeller. Listen to this. He would drive by a large group of people who were standing there waiting for some kind of a largesse or some kind of help. He would pass by and take dimes and just throw them into the air. And they would go and scavenge it and run for these dimes. This is what's called keli betat oir. That's not a midah of chesed. It was a disgusting thing to do. He is giving them money. It is keli betat oir. The inyan is that the keli has oir. And therefore there is a cognizance, you can identify higher and lower. In that particular instance, it was not higher and lower, it was no oil at all.
It was gaiva.
I don't know what it was. How a person could think of such a thing.